welcome to Spiritual Community in Citrus Heights. Please join us in singing our opening song, which is Stand. Let there be peace, I will stand for peace. Let there be love, I am a stand for love. Let there be joy, I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace, I am a stand for peace. Let there be love, I am a stand for love. Let there be joy, I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace, I am a stand for peace. Let there be love, I am a stand for love. Let there be joy, I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. We are making a new world now.
Thank you. Please be seated. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Unity Spiritual Community in Citrus Heights. And whether you're joining us today in person here at the Sylvan Community Center, or online in a Zoom session, or on Facebook Live, know that you are part of this family. And even those who will be watching a recording of the service later, we know that time is an illusion, and you are already part of this family. We enfold you in our love and our blessings. We are celebrating the blessed Easter this morning, and we come forward with open hearts and open minds to learn what we need to learn, share what we need to share, and to bless each other with our presence. And to that we say, hallelujah, thank you, and amen. Now it is my pleasure to introduce one of our licensed Unity teachers, Sylvia Wheeler, who will be sharing today's daily word. If you'll please come forward, Sylvia.
Thanks, Carla. Good morning. This is Sunday, April 9, 2023. And the word for today is Easter. And the affirmation for today is, I am resurrected through the power of Christ. I am resurrected through the power of Christ. Some challenges in life, on this glorious Easter day, I am resurrected and brimming with new life. The stones of defeat and elimination have rolled away. I am free and unlimited. Throughout my Lenten journey, I heeded the call from my soul to recognize the stones in my consciousness and awaken to the infinite potential within me. I can now rejoice in the shimmering light of awareness with an open, joyful heart. My faith is strong, and I am ablaze with the radiance of spirit. I welcome eternal, indwelling life into my mind and my heart. Hope never dies. Jesus transcended death and demonstrated life is eternal. With a grateful heart, I rise up and claim new life. I am resurrected through the indwelling Christ. It's a new dawn, a new day, a new beginning. risen. And the scripture for today is, I am the resurrection and the life. From John 11, chapter 11, verse 25.
Thank you, Sylvia. So this next song we'll be singing is called Rise Up. And you don't know it, but it's very straightforward. We're going to do it a number of times so you can listen the first time. And then after I sing it once, let's all stand as you sing it with me. Rise up, rise up, rise up into your greatness. There's hope and love and joy in all creation. We're going to take it down one more just pitch so you guys are even more comfortable. Okay, everybody stand up. Rise up. Rise up. Rise up into your greatness. There's hope and love and joy in all creation. Rise up, rise up, rise up into your greatness. There's hope and love and joy in all creation. Now you're getting the hang of it one more time. Rise up, rise up, rise up into your greatness. There's hope and love and joy in all creation.
All right, sit down, sit down. Our Sunday featurette is called, When is Easter Exactly? And I want you to know that this was a big thing to tackle. And I took days researching it and putting it together. And there were times I laughed until I cried. There were times I rolled around on the floor in despair, foaming at the mouth. But this is what I came up with. So I hope that it explains it all for you. So I'm going to have the next slide. We have 3 basic calendar systems that are involved in when is Easter exactly. The first one is the one that we use every day. It's the Gregorian calendar. And according to it, Easter is April the 9th, 2023. Then we have the Julian calendar. And if you happen to look at your calendar for April, you would notice that the Orthodox Christians celebrate Easter next Sunday on April 16th. They use the Julian calendar. And it's generally a combination of the year and then the number of days that have passed so far this year. So according to them, it's 23/099. And Easter will be next Sunday on 23/106. And you'll notice there's 2 other dates there because there is a hitch to this, which I will get to. And then it all started, of course, with the Hebrew calendar. And they don't celebrate Easter on the Hebrew calendar, but April the 9th, 2023, is the 18th day of the month of Nisan of the year 5783. And it is the 4th day of Passover. So I'm going to leave this up because we're going to talk about these in more detail. None of these calendars align exactly with the motion of the moon and the sun and the earth. I've often wondered if this is because humankind keeps trying to define the undefinable. We want to confine our world, our universe and beyond, into neat little uniform packets that can be counted and arranged and always come out even, like container ships. But the cosmos and life itself do not work that way. Our attempts to impose our mathematical system and our astronomical beliefs upon our observed reality have resulted in cumbersome, non-uniform, and downright comical solutions to what seems like a simple problem. What is the day of Easter? In the beginning there was a relationship between Passover and Easter. Passover is a Jewish holiday that celebrates the Hebrews being passed over when the Pharaoh ordered the murder of all the firstborn in Egypt. This is in the book of Exodus and is part of the history of Moses freeing the Hebrews from Egyptian slavery. Passover lasts either 7 or 8 days, it depends on who you ask. Jesus and the disciples ate the Last Supper on Thursday of Holy Week, and that was a Passover meal. It was a Seder, because Passover had just begun. You may remember in the Palm Sunday talk when we read that the people had come for the festival, and I said that festival was Passover. It was Passover, and that's why the people came to Jerusalem. Now, Passover always falls on the 15th day of Nisan every year. What a trick. What a trick it is. The Hebrew calendar is designed so each of the holidays has a fixed beginning date every year. So in the year 33 AD, which we call CE now as if we didn't have enough things to confuse us, the year 33 is the most likely year of the crucifixion of Jesus. Nisan 15 fell on April the 3rd, which resulted in April the 3rd in 33 CE being the most likely date for his crucifixion. And the first Easter then would have been April the 5th, 33 CE. The date of Passover, determined by the full moon, has always been connected with the date of Easter. Now, the current formula for the date of Easter, and you know, once I had this figured out, I thought I had it figured out. No. The current formula for the date of Easter is, it is the first Sunday after the first full moon that occurs on or after the March equinox, which I would call the spring equinox, except that I was reading an Australian website and it wasn't spring for them, it was fall. So they call it the March equinox. This formula was established at the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, as was so much of our codified Christianity. That sounds simple enough. But as I mentioned, if right now, you'll see that Easter is today, except for the Eastern Orthodox churches, which celebrate it next Sunday. The Eastern Orthodox Church is divided from the Roman Catholic churches in what is called the Great Schism of 1054. The Eastern, also known as the Greek churches, include Greece, Russia, Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia, and other countries, including some in Africa and the Middle East. And here's the kicker. They still use the Julian calendar. And the Julian calendar, this is the real kicker, is 13 days behind the Gregorian calendar for liturgical purposes. That's why we had 2 dates for each. We had the date of April the 9th, but we had the date for March the 27th because that's when they think it is. Julius Caesar developed the Julian calendar in 446 BCE. And as you can see, there are no months. There's the first 2 digits, maybe 4 if you're going to include the entire year, are the year, and then the days are numbered each year beginning with January the 1st, except for the liturgical calendar, which is 13 days behind us. The Gregorian calendar was introduced by Pope Gregory VIII in 1582, and they attempted to correct a few glitches created by the Julian calendar. For instance, this is when I fell off the couch. For instance, they just left out 10 days in October. This was in 1582, advancing from the 4th straight to the 15th, because they needed to even things up. If you don't know that time is an illusion by the time we get done with this featurette, then you're not paying attention. But the real problem in coordinating these 2 calendars is caused by leap year. We would like the Earth to take a tidy 365 days to revolve around the sun, but alas, it does not come out. On average, it takes the Earth approximately 365.242189 days, which is 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 45 seconds to make one orbit around the sun. We compensate for this in the Gregorian calendar by having leap year. We add a day every 4 years. That'd be February 29th. But there's a catch. That doesn't come out even here. So, when we start a new century, as we did in the year 2000, we do not have a leap year unless the year is divisible by 400.
Wow.
So I asked you, because we all were here in the year 2000, did we have a leap year? Yes, we did. Because 2000 is divisible by 400. But we will not have a leap year in 2100, the next century, because it's not divisible by 400. And furthermore, the Julian calendar will still add a leap year, and they will then be 14 days behind us. All right, another difference in the Eastern churches is that they will not celebrate Easter during Passover, which obviously we will, because we're in Passover right now. So let me have the next slide. These are the dates of Easter for 4 years, beginning this year. We have April the 9th and April the 16th. We already talked about that. Look at 2024. The Gregorian calendar has Easter on March 31st, and the Eastern churches on May 5th. And that's because of the moon and the sun and not wanting to do it in Passover. And how many days are they behind us now? And then 2025, we all celebrated on April the 20th. And 2026, we're back to a week apart. Wow. They figured all this stuff out without computers, too. Huh? And now, let us look at the Hebrew calendar. Next slide, please. As we mentioned, today, April the 9th, 2023, the date is 18 Nisan, 5783. But next year, April the 9th, in 2024, will be the first of Nisan, in 5784. But Passover will still begin on the 15th of Nisan, and it always will, because the whole calendar is calibrated such that holidays always start on that same date every year. The Jewish calendar counts dates from a traditional date from the creation of the world. So they believe that the world is 5,783 years old. The Jewish calendar is based both on solar and lunar cycles, with the lunar influence predominating. Each month in the Jewish calendar is 29 or 30 days long, which approximates the lunar month. And 12 of these lunar months total 354 days, which is about 11 days short of the solar year. And this leads to a substantial drift from year to year. To correct this, an additional month called Adar II is added during leap years. But the leap years occur roughly every third year, not to be confused with our leap years. And in addition, other changes are made every 19th year. Did I clear that up for you? So, I had a Jewish coworker when I was in the corporate world, and she was a good buddy of mine. But she could not tell us when her birthday was, because you can't translate easily from one calendar to another. And I can't remember if it was that she said she chose a day in the Gregorian calendar. She had to have it for things like driver's license. But the Hebrew date could not easily be translated into the Gregorian calendar. And I don't know, I'm sure somebody somewhere could do it, but she couldn't. And I thought, I didn't know why. I barely believed her, but now I understand. So we have this, next slide please. Back to our Easter formula. First Sunday after the first full moon on or after the spring, the March equinox. And this year in 2023, the spring equinox was March 20th. The next full moon was April 6th. And Easter is today on April 9th, unless you're in the Eastern churches, and then it's a week later. This year, Passover began at sunset on April the 5th. So, this final slide. Yes. My previous career, before God called me to the ministry, was in software. And I was a computer programmer, amongst other things. But when I was programming, I discovered that the trickiest logic in most programs is date manipulation. Can you imagine? I mean, you can imagine a client file has everybody's birth date. How are you going to calculate how old they are compared to today's date? With all the oddball numbers of days in the months, and arithmetic with dates is mind-boggling, especially with the Gregorian calendar. The Julian calendar is easier. And who would have thought that this would be the most complex thing to code for a computer? But that leads me to my last question. Who would have thought that figuring out the date of Easter would be the most complex part of Christianity? And thus ends our future.
That was fun. The next song I have is another new one for you. It's called I Am Lifted Up. So, let's see. Actually, it's a call and response song.
Call
Call
out.
and response song. Okay.
Ain't good at those.
I am lifted up. I am lifted up. I am lifted up.
I am lifted up.
Like the risen Christ, of my consciousness. Let's do that again. I am lifted up.
I am lifted up.
I am lifted up.
I am lifted up.
Like the risen Christ, of my consciousness. Together. Oh, I am lifted up. 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 I am fully alive. I am fully alive. I am fully alive.
I am fully alive.
Like the risen Christ, of my consciousness. Do that again. I am fully alive. I am fully alive. Like the risen Christ, of my consciousness. Together. Oh, I am lifted up. 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 And now please prepare with me for time of meditation.
You're going to bless the prayer request?
Oh, bless prayer requests. We'll do that first, right? Let's draw our attention to the prayer box in the lobby, where we've left our prayers, our requests for all of our concerns, for those we love, for ourselves, for the world. And we see them lifted up today on this Easter as we rise in consciousness and we visualize and affirm each person in each situation in their highest good, knowing that there is one power and one presence in this universe and in our lives and in the lives of others. We see that good outpouring and outworking in that divine order today, and we release our concerns into the loving care of the Christ Spirit. You may make your prayer requests, leave them in the prayer box in the lobby. You may also call us and, call Silent Unity or use the Prayer You Pray app, or email us at info@unitycitrusheights.org if you'd like a personal call from our prayer chaplains. Sylvia and I are prayer chaplains, and we would love to pray with you after service, so just come see us. And we release all of our prayer requests, and so it is, and all is well. Amen. And now, please prepare for a time of meditation. Oh, Spirit God,
let us sigh out any tension as we enter this sacred time, this sacred space. Turning within to the Lord of our being, we rest. We rest in the assurance of love everlasting. We rest in the knowledge that we are known and supported. Here in the garden of our inner world, we commune with the Christ. He whispers softly to us, "I will always love you. I will never leave you." We are consoled in knowing that we are never alone, that our elder brother and way shower leads us on the path to eternal peace. As we listen more closely, we hear, "You are greater than you know. You have within you all that you need." You and I and the Creator are one. Relaxing more deeply into this time of prayer, we allow God's sweet Spirit to envelop us, to uplift us. We breathe, and each breath brings the memory of the first springtime, when the world was new, and we walked hand in hand through the virgin meadows of the earth. With this vision in mind, we share some time in the silence. Then Jesus broke the bread, saying, "The earth is my body. Let it nourish you on your journey into Christhood." Then he poured the wine, telling his disciples, "As the blood now circulates in my body, my spirit shall forever circulate throughout the world. Whatever you ask for in my name, you shall be given." As we join together in the celebration of this holy day, know that we do this in remembrance of the Christ. Alleluia. Alleluia.
I close my eyes, I open my heart, I take a deep breath, let the healing start. I lift my hands, I plant my feet, I let love in, I feel the beat that's calling, calling, calling us to rise. Rise, Spirit, rise
Faith Rivera. You can find hers online.
Beautiful, Lisa, thank you. Easter represents the greatest mystery in our Christian tradition. It includes crucifixion, resurrection, and ascension. Easter also includes Christmas. Christmas and Easter are two poles of one continuous experience. It begins with Christmas, the birth of Christ consciousness into humanity. Not only in individual humans, not only in you and me today, but also in the human race, in race 9, representing not only our personal path to ascension, but also the evolutionary path being followed on our planet today. Easter is that moment in our lives when it is revealed to us that we are spirit or consciousness with bodies, rather than bodies with consciousness. Easter represents the breakthrough at which time we are freed from death and all material limitation, even from time and space. Easter proves that consciousness is the cause, the maintainer, and the sustainer of our lives. This is the truth of us. This is the truth of all human beings, whether they are Christian or not. And this is why Easter is such a hodgepodge of traditions. It includes Christian symbolism laid over pagan ritual, Jesus on the cross and the empty tomb and the Easter bunny delivering chicken's eggs. The truth of Easter is from the realm of myth. Not myth as a lie, and not to diminish the sacredness of Easter, but myth as being from the archetypal realm, the birthplace of human consciousness, having eternal truth outside of time and space, not restricted to one spiritual tradition, not difficult to interpret in one human language, felt rather than thought, the symbols being recognized at the core of our being. It is a holy drama reenacted many times in each of our lifetimes and reenacted at the global level, especially now as we have entered the new age, when we are finally reaching ascension consciousness. Death and resurrection happen many times in each of our lives, each divorce, each move, every new job, any shift in consciousness whatsoever. The old identity dies and a new one is born. Each shift in identity brings on an identity crisis. We've been taught to believe that crucifixion is the dark or shadow side. It's failure, it should be avoided. But when we understand that it is no more than a stage in the creative and divine process, it's the flip side of the resurrection, we know that we will come out triumphant. Most of us don't like change. We don't like not being able to see what is coming next. We don't like loss or giving up a bird in the hand when we can't yet see two in the bush. Yet the crucifixion was followed by 3 days in the tomb, 3 days in the deep, dark, quiet place, a place of rest and restoration. In our own lives, there's often a time of rest before the resurrection. Our society doesn't support or even recognize the need for grieving our losses. In some cultures, folks wore black armbands or other symbols of being in mourning. This was so other folks would understand if their behavior was not quite sane. We need to know that healing takes as long as it takes. It takes as long as it takes. I had a miscarriage in 1990 and it broke my heart. And I spent 5 years in the tomb. In 2000, 5 of my loved ones died, family and other loved ones. And I spent 5 more years in the tomb. It takes as long as it takes. Healing can take place on the subconscious level if we surrender it to God. If we say, thy will be done. We cannot understand it from our human point of view, but healing will happen. The grass will return in the spring. The birds will sing. The sun will shine. And one day we will rise and leave the tomb, resurrected into a new life. Easter says that life is eternal and that when you turn to God, your material life is transformed and even resurrected. You may have heard the phrase, as above, so below. Every crucifixion and resurrection that we experience individually is a reflection of the sacred process of death and rebirth. Charles Fillmore, in his book Keep a True Minute, wrote, when we sing the old hymn, I'll go with him all the way, we do not always realize the mighty import of our words. Jesus went all the way from the human to the divine. He went all the way to immortality. He raised not only his own consciousness from despair and hopelessness to assurance and confidence in the presence and continued help of a loving Mother, Father, God. But he opened the way for the whole race to do likewise. When we determine to follow him all the way, we undertake the mighty work of the ages. Each of our lives is the microcosm of the macrocosm. There's no separation from God. With his resurrection, Jesus demonstrated that the world is the creation of consciousness. The resurrection did not happen to Jesus from an outside force or from God. Jesus resurrected himself, thereby showing us that we have created death and we have the power to overcome death. Now, a word about Judas. If ever there was a man who got a bad rap, it was Judas. He has been villainized for centuries, condemned to death and infamy. And as long as we think of Judas as a person rather than what he represented, we cannot fully understand God's omnipotence or love. Judas symbolizes that negative part of our own personalities, which is necessary for us to catalyze the Easter process out of which we are born and without which we would never reach ascension. It's that part of us that dies, and it represents the error beliefs that we have outgrown. the part of us that betrays us or leads us to the death of our old identities. It's our Judas. Judas is a friend, a guide, a teacher, and an indispensable element in the Easter process. To Jesus, Judas was the man who loved him more than anyone else. Jesus knew that Judas would be willing to make the sacrifice necessary in order to fulfill his role. Without Judas, Jesus would not be remembered today. The crown of forgiveness is placed on our heads once we realize that those who seem to have betrayed us are our own Judas projections. I needed to hear that. Projections that are our consciousness. The projections that our consciousness has brought about in order to make possible our resurrection and our final ascension. Often those who betray us do so out of a love that none of us understood or were capable of understanding at the time. We see the pattern of creation, the divine logic, from the smallest molecule to the largest galaxy. We see the same holy pattern, all created from the same order of being. We see the pattern of our journey into ascension, from the smallest circumstance in our individual experience to the march of human history forward to fulfill its destiny, all created from the same holy consciousness. Human beings were created by God in God's own likeness. We were given free will. And with that free will, we have created a dream world in which we experience death and isolation. As we learn that nothing in this dream world can ever meet our needs, we turn inward to the Christ. We die to the dreams of the world. We are reborn again and again, each time refining our human consciousness. And ultimately, we ascend back to the Godhead. We return with the strengths and gifts we have garnered throughout our voyage into the realm of time and space. We are, as a collective expression of the divine, on the verge of this ascension. We are teetering on that threshold. You should be feeling it vibrate within you at this very moment. We live in a time prophesied throughout the ages. It is a time of cataclysmic loss. It is a time of rebirth and renewal. We are emerging from the tomb of universal consciousness. Your role in this mighty work is to know that Easter proved that time and space do not bind you, for you are all that God is. To be willing to let yourself change and know that resurrection is assured. We are ready to be born again into a higher order of being, one that vibrates in time with our true selves, our God selves. We will rejoice as we overcome the world. We will rejoice as we release false expectations. We will rejoice as we awaken to the conscious knowing that we are all God. And thus ends the lesson.
Every breath in me proclaims hallelujah, 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 And now I'd like to ask our ushers to prepare for our offering. We are so grateful as everyone participates in supporting our ministry, and we know that this is a sacred act. It is a sacred ritual that we perform and allows us to minister in this way as we give and therefore receive. So we invite you to either give here at Sylvan Community Center in Citrus Heights, or you may find our donate button on our website, unitycitrusheights.org, or also in our newsletter. So at this time, let us now join together in saying our prosperity prayer, knowing that divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I choose to give, and all that I am open to receive. And so it is. Thank you, God. Amen.
So we have some announcements this morning. This Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, which is April 11th in the Gregorian calendar, is the first meeting of the 5 Principles class that Lisa will be teaching on Zoom for 6 weeks. It begins at 6:30. This is based on the book by Ellen Davenport. I have known her for years. We were in licensed teacher classes together back in the early 1990s. Boy, she has just been a great service to the unity movement. It's not a very big book, but you are strongly encouraged to attend the class and to learn the practical side of applying these principles. Did you want to add anything to that?
No, that was great.
Okay. Register on our website. It's a Tuesday. Next Sunday is a meeting. We'll be back here in person. And the talk is the law of mind action. And the featurette is called the Operation Cone of Power. And it is about when the witches of Britain held off the German invasion in 1940. When they gathered on the shore and they just put their power of their intent, and the invasion failed. And it was one of 3 times where the witches saved Britain. Got goosebumps. And I want to compare the power of intent, since my talk is on the law of mind action, to what goes on in these different frameworks and how it is all the same. It's all consciousness. It's the creative power of mind. Whether you want to think that you did it because you had a spell, or you think you did it because you had an affirmation, it's all the same. I was really glad that one song you sang said, "I'm going to speak my truth now. Can't hold me back no longer." Then the next Sunday, still here at the Community Center, is the secret language of trees. And Lisa's speaking, and this is in honor of Earth Day, that she has created this talk, and she will have as her musical guest, Melissa Olson. Then the last Sunday of the month is a Zoom service, and I'll be talking about adventures in prayer. Then a reminder that today's the last Sunday of our Lenten outreach where we were collecting donations this year to support the Youth of Unity group that we are founding here so that they can have help paying registration for their rallies. So if you have not yet donated anything, you might consider doing it today. And now it's time for the peace song.
All right. Well, everyone, please rise and join me, and join hands if you like. We are circle.
Weave us together, weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together, weave us together, and let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as Creator. Family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyful vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin
And now for our prayer for protection, we know that the light of
God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
God bless you all. Have a wonderful